that's gonna serve as our decoration today. This video in particular is gonna be all about the books that I read during the month of May, which I'm very excited about because these videos happen to be my favorite. I feel like all of the books are still fresh in my memory and I'm excited to recommend them to you guys. Some of them, because some of these books didn't really like blow me away as much as I thought they would, but we'll get into that. But this is our cute little pile for the month of May. Weirdly enough, I actually have a couple different genres in the books I'm going to be talking about. Of course, the majority of it are rom-coms because that is just the key for me to get out of a book slump. But I've also got some like deeper sad books, and I've also got like a thriller, mystery, paranormal activity type of situation. But before I get started, I do want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. Book of the Month is a super popular and fast growing online book service for all readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and to help readers find books that they absolutely love. Their team vets hundreds of books each month, and they give readers their choice from a curated selection of new and early release titles. That way you're not spending all your time trying to find the perfect book, they already find it for you. They are completely risk-free, so you can skip any month at any time and you will not be charged. And this month you can get your first book for only $9.99 if you use the code SUMMER. And Book of the Month just released a podcast called Virtual Book Tour, where it's basically conversations between the Book of the Month editorial team and Book of the Month authors, and you can listen to it right now on Apple or Spotify. I'm going to share with you guys the books that I received this month, starting with the first book is called The Lifestyle by Taylor Hahn. Then we have The Lies I Tell by Julie Clark. Next we have Woman of Light. Look at that cover. Next we have The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. Lastly, it's Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hiller. This looks really good. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video, and let's get started with every single book I read in May. Okay, I'm going to start off with After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid because this is the last one that I read in May. I rated After I Do 4 stars out of 5. So the book is basically about a married couple that is at their breaking point. They are literally either about to divorce or they are about to kill each other because they cannot stand each other. The book does a really great job at showing you the beginning of their relationship and when things were a lot better, and like how they got married and when they got married and like the beginning years of their marriage and everything like that. It shows you their honeymoon, it shows you their college days, it shows you all these like amazing, beautiful, romantic things that they lived together leading up to when they've been married for 6 years and when they cannot go one day without arguing. The big gist of the book though is that they basically make the decision to take a 1-year break. Not a divorce, they just basically want to separate for 1 year, but they cannot speak to each other, they cannot see each other, they can't write to each other, anything. Like no contact whatsoever, and it's a 1-year break from each other and from their marriage because they can just go on and pretty much like be single and live like they're single. So from the very beginning, I could tell that these characters, like the decisions that they were going to be making, were going to be a little skeptical. But I mean, I've never been married, but like taking a 1-year break from your husband to see if you still want to be with them for the rest of your life, it sounds a little drastic. But like I've never been married, so maybe sometimes it does get that bad. But honestly, nonetheless, I feel like the ending made it worth it. The ending came through. I really love the ending and just how everything tied together. And I only have 2 more Taylor Jenkins Reid books to read, and her new one comes out in August, and then I'm done with all of her books, which is really sad because like what else? I mean, I can always reread. Yeah, I can always do that. Okay, next I'm talking about the one thriller slash suspense slash paranormal activity type of vibes. Okay, I'm gonna be talking about Layla by Colleen Hoover. I can't remember if I rated it 4 or 5 stars out of 5. All I remember is that I really enjoyed it, and there are some serious plot twists in this book, like serious. Like I think there's like a couple too. It's not just one. There are a couple plot twists that you're just like, what the is going on? But I really liked it. Is it as good as Verity? I'm so sorry to compare it, but I just feel like maybe some of you guys are going to be thinking it. No, Verity is like a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and she created magic with that book. However, this one is really good too. The story starts out with a married couple, and the girl is Layla and the guy is Leeds. I don't know where authors come up with names. Like, I don't know, like, do you Google like cool names or something? But Leeds, I've never heard. It's cool, I've just never heard it in my entire life. Anyways, I'm also Mexican, so like we don't have names like that, you know what I mean? Anyways, and the story starts out when they meet for the very first time, and Leeds is a musician and he's playing in a band, and they're at a wedding. So he is part of the band that's like the entertainment for the wedding, and Layla is the sister of the bride. The wedding basically takes place in this really cute, really small sort of bed and breakfast. After they meet there, everything just starts happening really quickly for them. They realize like, oh my god, you're my person. Everything is super cute. It's like sparks flying for them really quickly. So they realize they're in love, they move in together, the relationship is just going really well. It's like 6 months into the relationship when tragedy hits them really bad. And basically someone shows up to their doorstep and shoots Layla in the head and leads in the shoulder. So she actually doesn't pass away, but there's like a lot to like recover from, and she ends up like recovering physically, but mentally she's just not the same at all, and their relationship takes a really big hit with that. So Leeds basically tries to make an attempt to bring the relationship back to the way that it was, and he does that by taking her back to the same bed and breakfast where they met for the very first time. The second that they step foot in that bed and breakfast, weird things start going on. They expect this bed and breakfast to like magically bring their relationship back to the way that it was, and basically it just doesn't really work that way, because they're supposed to be alone, and I don't want to say too much, but just like paranormal activity starts happening at the house. I honestly really enjoyed it, and I missed the feeling of a good thriller, because I feel like a thriller is really different when you're reading it, because it just makes you want to read it so fast, because it's those type of stories where you want to know what happens in the end. And yeah, it did not disappoint. I really liked it. Okay, next book I'm talking about is this cute little rom-com called Birds of California. Birds of California is a rom-com, and it's about Fiona and Sam. Basically Sam and Fiona have known each other for a while because they were both in the same show. They're both actors, and they were both in the same show when they were both like 16 or something, and they were on it for a couple of seasons until Fiona went full Lindsay Lohan on. I mean, I love Lindsay Lohan, you know, like all those scandals that happened, and like when she went to jail, and like when she was known as like a big party girl, all that type of stuff. Well, that's basically who I was envisioning when they were describing Fiona. Now it's like 10 years later, and Fiona gave up on the whole acting thing after she got fired from Birds of California, and after her whole scandal situation, all she wanted was a really calm and relaxing life. And it's basically when Sam is struggling the most as an actor and Fiona is living her chill, you know, out of the spotlight life, that an offer reaches both of them, which is where they want to reboot or restart or make another season of Birds of California. Sam's answer right away is yes, absolutely, he wants to do it. Fiona's answer is immediately no. So that is when he gets the task to go and try and convince Fiona, which he hasn't seen in like almost a decade, to go and convince her to do the show. It wasn't one of my favorites this month, but I did enjoy reading it. And yeah, I feel like you have to try really hard to mess up a rom-com. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Next book I'm talking about is Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. The first thought that comes to my mind for this book is that it was sad. This story I feel like covers a lot, but the main point is that it's a story about a mom and a daughter that do not get along that well for most of the book. Monica is the mom and Clara is a teenage daughter, and the tragedy that occurs very early on in the book is that this like very questionable, very heartbreaking accident happens where her dad, Monica's husband, passes away. I think the one thing about this book that I wanted to like rant about when I finished it was that so many of the problems, which I think is like, I think Colleen Hoover did it because it's a very common issue between moms and daughters, especially teenage daughters. An issue that happened a lot in the book is the miscommunication that was going on. Like, nothing infuriates me more in books and in real life, like when people aren't communicating, you know? And it's like when they're going through all these arguments and all these fights that would be like solved or would be like prevented if you just talked, like if you just said, like if you just stopped lying, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of this book was the mom hiding stuff from the daughter and the daughter hiding stuff from the mom because they wanted to spare each other's feelings, and then a bunch of fights would happen because like the other one didn't know what was going on or they believed the worst. It was just like, I'm like, oh my god, like just tell her and then you wouldn't be arguing for 2 chapters. I'm sorry. You know what? I don't blame Colleen Hoover though, because I think the point of the book though is to show how relationships between, you know, moms and daughters are, because even though it made me want to rip my hair out from time to time, I did enjoy this book and I gave it 4 stars out of 5. I definitely needed to read a rom-com after finishing that book, which is why I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I don't know where I put it. I don't know if it was on my Goodreads or if it was on my Instagram story where I said that I hadn't read a book that good in so long. So the story is about Nora and Charlie. Nora is a book agent and Charlie is a book editor. They are both very successful and very good at what they do. So it's the middle of summer when Nora and her sister decide to take a little trip to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina, and that is where Nora weirdly and surprisingly runs into Charlie. You know the town where the Hannah Montana movie takes place? That's how I envision the town to look like. So the first half of the book is filled with just like banter between them, and it's amazing. It's actually funny banter. They're very sarcastic and they're very like, you know, funny with each other. The characters were so freaking likable. It takes place in this really cute, really summery town. Yeah, Emily Henry, you did it again. This was a 5 stars out of 5. Okay, next book I'm talking about is another Colleen Hoover book. This is Without Merit, and I really got into like the low-key, I feel like this is a low-key Colleen Hoover book. I don't hear a lot about this book at all. I don't know what score I gave that when I finished it. I want to say right now that it was like a 3 to a 4 stars. I don't know if I should give you my opinion on this book first or if I should tell you what it's about first, because honestly I'm still trying to figure out what it's about. Not to say it was a bad book, because I thought it was a pretty good book. It was kind of intriguing at times. However, I just don't know like in what direction the book was supposed to be headed. But now, like after reading it, I can tell you that it's basically about a really messed up family that, you know, have good intentions with each other, but they just go around hiding so many secrets from each other. You know how I was saying before that like miscommunication or like no communication at all is just like so annoying to me? Well, that's kind of a big like part of this book. Basically the majority of the story is Merit blaming everybody but herself, and I'm like, girly girl, you have a couple of faults too, you know? I think if you're interested in reading a book from the point of view of a troubled teen that's going through a lot and that's put into this really dysfunctional family that she doesn't even really want to be in sometimes, then you should read this book. Next, I'm talking about another little rom-com. This is Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. This book honestly felt like a breath of fresh air. Like, I remember when I was reading this book, I was flying through it because I just thought it was so good. This book is about Karina and Prem. Karina is like 30 years old. She's very successful at what she does. She's a very successful woman, but she comes from a family that if you're not married or if you're not like with a boyfriend or something like that, you're not really considered like you're successful. So she's on dating apps and everything, but her main focus isn't really like settling down or like finding a husband. She has other priorities like buying a house. Also, Karina, the main character, is a Taylor Swift fan. She's a Swiftie, and she's also a book lover, and she's like an introvert, and she loves staying home and reading books and having a glass of wine. So there was a lot to love in this character, if you ask me. So basically the issue in this book happens when Karina's dad wants to move and he wants to sell their childhood home that Karina also lives in. And Karina's mom actually passed away, and she feels like that house is kind of like her last connection to her mom. Her dad makes a deal with her, and that is if she can get engaged in 4 months, he will gift her the house, because he is also like a traditional dad, and he thinks that like, okay, if you can like find a husband and you can settle down, you can get this house. Prem just happens to be somebody that Karina already met, and they did not get along at all. So there's like this whole thing going on where if Prem can find a wife, then he can get funding for the clinic that because he's a doctor. But he's a doctor, and the only way that he can get funding for this clinic that he wants to do is if he finds a wife. So Karina needs a husband to get the house, and Prem needs a wife to get the clinic. So you'd think it'd be like the perfect solution. They both get what they want, they just marry each other, bam, cool. No, because Karina is very, which I love, but she's very like, what's the word? She will not marry if it's not for love. Like, she will not marry if it's not her soulmate. She will not marry if she doesn't know that this is the person that she wants to spend the rest of her life with. She's a hopeless romantic. I mean, she spends her nights reading like romance books. What did you expect? Honestly, like I said, it was just like a breath of fresh air. It's such a good story. It's so cute. It's funny. And yeah, I loved it so freaking much. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Okay, last book I'm talking about is The Roughest Draft. So some quick little things about this book. It is a slow burn. It is a friends to strangers to lovers. It is a kind of like enemies to lovers sort of in there. It is also a one house trope, if that exists. They're literally stuck in the same house for the entire summer. But the characters Katrina and Nathan are both co-authors, or they were co-authors before they got into this huge argument that led them to not speak, not contact each other, not write together for 4 years. And nobody knows what that argument was. And the mystery behind why they stopped writing also just makes it so freaking good and intriguing, because it's just like, why did you stop writing? So the characters, after 4 years, they get together once again to write another book because they're both still under contract. They're in this house in Florida in the freaking burning sun, right by the beach, in the house, just them two, and the tension is very much there. I honestly really enjoyed this book, and what made it also even better is that it shows you the process of how people write books. Like, I don't know if this is a process for everybody, but the way that they literally devoted their entire lives for like 2 months to writing this book just makes me think that's how every author does it, and it's crazy. And I loved this book so freaking much. This is a slow burn done right for me. I know I asked you guys in my last video to comment down below what you were currently reading, and I want you guys to do it again because I'm really interested. You guys gave me some really good either recommendations, or you guys were reading some of my favorite books. Like, somebody commented on my other video that they were reading Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for the first time, and I was like, I want to be you. Like, I literally want it to be them reading it for the first time. So comment down below what you're currently reading. But anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.